Welcome back to Sebring for another round of the Radical Sim Racing America's Championship here in 2025. We are back after our summer break, ready for round 7, with 4 more to go until the World Finals at the end of November. It's myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Ron Miles with you here tonight from the Sunshine State, as it were, Florida, and Ramiro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras tonight. We had a fantastic short race on Friday, Ron, at the official Radical Esports Cup that we cover every Friday night on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing YouTube channel as well. We're back here, though, for Sebring for an hour-long race this time, which I think is going to be different in so many ways. But if it's half as exciting as Friday was, we are in for a very good show tonight.
I have a feeling that we are going to be in for a glorious race here for round number 7 of this championship. As you said, Ewan, that official race on Friday here on RaceSpotTV was absolutely divine. And here today, we've both got the exact same track, the exact same cars, some of the same competitors, but we've also got that strategy content thrown into the midst as well. This 60-minute long race format that we've had throughout 2025 has produced some killer races up to this point. So I have a feeling that here at Sebring, we are in for another fantastic round of what's already been an absolutely fantastic season.
Yeah, this season has mostly contained North American races, with flyaway races to Interlagos to bring up the halfway part of the season, and the Nordschleife to kick off the season as well. But it's a 4-legged North American end to the season. In fact, the final half is all Sebring, Mosport, Belle Isle, Mid-Ohio to round out the 2025 schedule for the America's Championship. And as far as the prizes for this season, this is the case for the European and America's Championship, that the Drivers' Champion gets 12 months iRacing subscription, free entry to the 2026 season along with the World Final entry this year, as do the top 7, in fact, all qualifying for the World Finals. P2 also gets the free entry to the 2026 season. The next 7 qualify for the Last Chance qualifiers. That's the week before the World Finals in late November, as I mentioned. Teams champions will get a track each in iRacing and a free entry into next season, as well as the Vice Team champions will also get a free entry to next season, and we'll see who those are in a moment. Let's first the drivers, though, and this brilliant championship battle between Aiden Young and Ryan Odo. Just 1 point apart after Ryan Odo finally won again after 4 weeks of not winning. He won for the first time since the Nordschleife, the opening round of the season. John Bodefor is then at 3rd, ahead of Alberto Diaz and Graham Sanders. Lucas Vieira in 6th place, ahead of Diego Zuccarelli, who's missed a couple of rounds this season. That's why he's a bit further back. David Unger's missed even more. Rasim Fazuri, Cameron Martineau, all the same as you go further down the standings. In the AMS, it's still close between Jose Gonzalez and John Benlid, who won last time out. Jarrett Tunkovic is still in the top 3, with J.R. Gregory and Colby Book not that far away either. Joel Jacqueline, Charles Krasic are the last drivers in the top 7, the all-important top 7, as we know. Adrian Fernandez looking to get into that with Cedric Oyan and Chris Reagan just outside of it. In the team standings, it's only 2 teams in each, but a good fight in both. Top-8 Precision Racing at the moment holding 49 points over Team ERC in Pro, and Flying Lion Racing leading by just 2 points over Lima Racing in the AM team standings. They are going to be ones to watch and look out for over the final 4 rounds of this championship season. Let's have a look at what happened last time out, though, as we just crossed into the second half of the season and got racing at Watkins Glen. This is, of course, the race start, and immediately a very good start from Diaz, Bodefor and Ryan Odo, all in the way towards turn, but Aiden Young as well, all the way in towards turn number 1, as they all filtered through cleanly for the first time. It was really the run-up towards the bus stop chicane, though, that everyone was worried about at the start of the day, and only one driver, fortunately, having to go through the chicane on this occasion. But Ryan Odo was able to get out with the lead, ahead of Alberto Diaz, then Aiden Young, and then Bodefor, who, despite having a look at the inside on the way towards turn 1, couldn't quite get there. Then contact. Diaz's run at the front came to an end very, very quickly indeed, unfortunately, as he made contact with Graham Sanders, taking him completely out of contention. This 40 minutes into the race was the second pit stop of the day. Aiden Young and Ryan Odo absolutely nose to tail, with Odo just about getting released earlier. On the outside, though, of Young, he couldn't quite get ahead by the exit of the pit lane, but look at this. Super close between the two, and Bodefor, having pitted a lap earlier, had even more momentum than the two of them. 3 wide wide. Down the back straight they went. John Butterfield with that extra momentum went through. Aidan Young used him to try and stay in front of Odo, but he couldn't even do that. And so Young lost 2 places in one go. This all the way to the end of the race, though. It mattered right onto the very last lap of the race. Ryan Odo going on to that 3rd place, ripping right round the outside into the bus stop chicane. Butterfield going from 1st to 3rd, and Aidan Young staying exactly where he started that final lap of the race. A great 2nd and 3rd sector from Odo as well when the white flag was waving. Got him the victory in the end for Team DRC. As I say, his first win since the Nordschleife round, the very first round of our championship all the way back in March, I believe. Very long time ago. A few positions further back, John Benelid with a slightly bigger advantage of 1.2 seconds, won in the Anfield just ahead of Joel Jacklin, and that has got Benelid a lot closer to the championship lead. In fact, he gained 18 points on the day over Jose Gonzalez, who had his worst run of the season so far, and so that Watkins Glen round will become his drop round here, even though he only finished 14th place, which, all things considered, isn't really that bad. Here in the modern day, it is 8:05 here in Sebring, 26 degrees Celsius down on the circuit. That is 78 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you over in the Americas. It was a great round at Watkins Glen, Ron, and again, I think we're set up for something similar like that, because you could say that Radical Esports Cup racing was great at Watkins Glen on that Friday, yes, but you've got to remember, getting into the next race, that, it's an hour long, and it's a lot longer than our races on Fridays. However, that race that we showed just before the summer break showed that, we can have good races even over the course of an hour. It doesn't have to be just the short 20-minute races that produce the action.
This is going to be a very odd comparison and a very odd thing to say, as we're currently in the midst of qualifying for the 60-minute long race that lies ahead. But knowing what sort of race we can expect in either these Radical Americas races on RaceSpotTV or the Radical European Championship that comes a week before these short races, basically what you've got is a baked potato, and that baked potato can taste many different ways depending on what you put on top of it. The Esports Cup races on Friday, much shorter, so there's a bit more of a punchiness to them, but at the core of it all, you've got the exact same thing. You've got the same track, the same cars, and they can put on a good show. Even the conditions in this race here looking a little bit similar. This past Friday, we had that race in the night for that official round, and here for this Radical Americas race here for race number 7 of the season, we're racing under the lights. You can see the headlights are on these cars, and even the track conditions rather similar, not too far off. I think we're actually running a little bit cooler, which is actually going to benefit these drivers to a certain extent. They won't have to worry about any sort of overheating tires or anything of the sort. So overall, I think despite the fact that it is such a different race compared to what we saw this past Friday, being well longer, with some different drivers that you don't usually see in the officials running in this event, I still think at the core of it, you've got a winning combination with these two.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always enjoyed, even at the circuits that are not so great for racing, actually, that generally pop up on any calendar, the fuel strategy and so on that makes these races so interesting, really. And that's why we're here, the Radical Sim Racing Americas Championship, along with the European Championship, of course, which had its 7th round last weekend from Fuji, and they get a step closer to knowing who will be the top 7 there to compete against the top 7 from here. Certainly got some good competitors this year to fight for the Americas region, Ron. I mean, it's not, correct if I'm wrong, it's not a region that has won over the Europeans before, but, we've got Aidan Young and Ryan Odo almost training each other up to be better and better each week as they battle amongst themselves, ready to battle the Europeans in November.
Yeah, those two young Americans have been trading blows throughout this season. The two of them have 2 wins up to this point. Odo's coming in the first race of the first half of the season, the opening round at the Nordschleife, and last time out at Watkins Glen some 2 months ago. Aidan Young's wins, though, they came back-to-back in race number 3 and 4 at Road Atlanta and Montreal. Here, though, I think those two, once again, going to be pushing each other to the limit. I really want to see, come time for the fall, once we get into the World Finals, how things things may shake out, because in 2024, we did see a very stacked America's grid with many a racer. Ryan Odo ended up finishing P2 in that championship, who is now teammate of Lucas Vieira, who I don't believe is racing with us here tonight. He hasn't really gone off to a good start as your reigning champion. I'm not even sure if he is actually running here for the rest of the season, but never really got to see those America's drivers contend for the wins in the World Finals last year, as both of them really got struck by falling anvils before the racing action had really even started. But Ryan Odo and Ian Young, they're going to be pushing each other to the absolute limits. We've seen it from Odo, and both of us, Ewan, have seen Aiden Young in many an event. He's a talented racer, so look at those two to really push each other to a new height.
A very good afternoon to everybody, or evening indeed, to everybody watching along at home, by the way, including James Barry, who's already making bad puns and cheering on J.R. Gregory, who's not here. So, so he's off to a good start. But anyway, let's see who is here and indeed go through the starting grid. Starting with Aiden Young, who's currently on the pole, of course, ahead of Ryan Odo, the only Team ERC driver in this race today. John Bodefor is one of our two Solpep Precision Racing drivers. He is ahead of Obodo Diaz, the first four pros. Then Jared Dunkovic, who's taken AM pole ahead of James Franznik, who is then on row 3, already over a second off of pole of Aiden Young. John Benlid, last round winner, is 7th ahead of Jose Gonzalez, with Adrian Fernandez and Joel Jacqueline rounding out the top 10. Robert Neville and Colby Buck then are on row 6. Colby, the first driver, over 2 seconds off pole. Charles Kresic is 13th ahead of Cedric Ayam, with Gregory Castillo 15th. Graham Sanders didn't set a time, but it's notable that he is one of 2 Solpec drivers on the grid here today, whereas you say, and correctly, Lucas Vieira is not here, and so Ryan Odo is doing Team ERC duties for the team on his own. That's going to allow Solpec to pull further in front in that team's battle.
Yeah, it's rather interesting, the fact that Solpec has gone off to the start that they have thus far this season, based off the fact that neither of the Solpec competitors have won a race up to this point in the season in the pro category. Who knows, maybe that can change here today. I'm personally expecting the regular dogfight between Ian Young and Ryan Odo, but hey, we've got 60 minutes of racing action, a very tough racetrack. Got to respect the bumps here. If you respect them, you're going to be good. If not, you may be in for a world of hurt, but I'm expecting the usual great, fantastic racing action here from the Radical Americas Championship. Just waiting for a couple more drivers to line up on that starting grid, and then we can crack our knuckles and get off into what's going to be a 60-minute long race of nothing but excitement.
Exactly. We are ready to go here from Sebring. The lights are on. It's dark in the Sunshine State, and we are ready to go. An hour long here at Sebring. And the lights are out, we're underway. Oh, and immediately a defence from Young. Look at the start there from John Bodefor again for the second round in a row. He's flying up the front straight in towards turn 1 and nearly in the lead, but not quite. Ryan Odo sweeps around the outside and takes that lead, with Young just trying to hold on to second. If he's going to beat his long-time rival here today, he's going to need this track position early on, and he hasn't got it for the moment. Inside for turn 5. Surely he can shut it out now. Can he get clear? Yes, he can, as we've got a car off down at turn 3. That looks like it's James Franznik and Colby Buck who have come together, because they're a long way down the back of the field with Jose Gonzalez as well, as it's a defence from Young. There's big battling for the lead going on as Ryan Odo races out to an early lead.
Yeah, Ryan Odo trying to check out as the 2 racers really try and squabble up for the final 2 podium spots right behind Young. Still trying to defend from John Bodefor. He knows what he can do. He knows to try and strike while the iron is hot. He looks for the move heading down to turn number 10. They come oh so close to making contact down to the braking zone. And look at Ubaldo Diaz there to pounce as well. Diaz started the season off as a pretty good contender. Won round number 2 at Road America. This is another draft-heavy, old-school American road course. As look at Diaz getting that move done.
And that was wide for Bodefor there through Tower Corner. Jared Dunkovic is getting right in here as well. He's an AM driver, but they score points on an overall basis, of course. And if you can get in amongst the pros, then that is an advantage. Dunkovic can't quite do it there, though. Benelid, the only other AM, by the way, to have a clean start here. All of the other drivers in this field, all 9 other drivers, all delayed, and they're all AM drivers as well. Let's start to get the first picture as to why that is. James Franznik here in towards turn 3. He was definitely hit there, and that's a big mess, big old mess down into turn 3. I think Gonzalez is the one who makes the initial contact, actually.
If that is a moment for Gonzalez, that's going to be a pretty big kick in the shins for him. You're at one point dominant racer in AM, not having a good run throughout the summer here, as yes, it was big contact. I think he locked it up a little bit, hit that inside curb for sure, and sent James Franstick around. An ugly moment heading down into turn number 3 at the very beginning of this race. That's one thing, though, that we forgot to raise, talking about the tire and the brake temperatures at the start of this race, and clearly that called out many a racer down to 3.
Gregory Castillo has also been off the road fairly significantly on lap number 1. Colby Buck as well. They're both in pit lane. Buck was involved in that turn 3 crash we just saw, of course. But yeah, for Castillo, he's had separate issues other than that, and he's even further behind now. So those are a couple of drivers a long way down the back. Oh, it's out of Le Mans corner. He's slid off of the on the grass there, that curbing on the outside line, and the front right goes into the concrete wall. That's why Gregory Castillo so far behind the rest.
Yeah, Castillo going to have to come in to repair that damage, utilize a fast repair, and rejoin this race, but he is still well farther back, and we're outside that pit window as well, so he will not be able to make it to the end of this race on one more stop. That is pretty much neutering the driver of the number 12 car's race before it even really started. But one driver who shook off any challenges, like a bad case of the fleas on lap 1, was Aiden Young. It was some luck involving John Boda for having a big sideways snap heading down to turn number 13 of Tower Bend, but he's now there. He is right within striking distance of his main championship rival. These two have been duking it out all season long. Odo looking to peak at the right time. Young looking to return to victory lane for the 3rd time this season as he's closing up that gap down the backstretch.
Listen in. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was expecting to hear. Just a little bit of lifting off on the way towards Sunset Bend there. He's lost that place off the pole, as you can see, and there's been lots of moving and changing going on up and down the field, in fact. But Young not quite wanting to take that position back again from Ryan Odo, who's currently towing him around. But they're a front 2 together. Here comes Young into turn 1. He's not going to wait around this whole first stint. This first stint is about making places and getting track position if you can at all. And Aiden Young goes to the inside of turn 1, and he retakes that lead. Does the pole sitter after dropping nearly to 3rd place on the opening of this race.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder what the problem was there for Young. I mean, these SR10s super tough to try and get off the line, but that's the worst start that we've seen from him all season long. It's tough as well, considering this is a night race. Probably some very cold tires from him right off the gate, and overestimated the amount of grip that he would have, but it hasn't really hurt him too much. Holding on to the race lead now as they come out of the hairpin, but Odo maybe gonna utilize this draft through Fangio off into turn number 10 of Cunningham to jump back into the race lead. He's close. I'm not sure if he's gonna fight it too much though.
Well, is he going to play the field games this early on? As I say, we normally see the first stint about getting track position, getting or distancing for these two. The rest of the field, they can put Diaz and now Butterfoot out of the equation here if they work together a little bit. As Odo goes a bit wide through Tower, but not going to manage that if they're just backing off and saving fuel. That was, as I say, a mistake through Tower corner though, and look at the gap grow to 3/4 of a second now. Odo can't afford to lose the slipstream in this first stage of the race. Otherwise, Young is just going to continue to control it all the way throughout. He has to stay within that slipstream for the moment. And he is right now, but he's in danger of just letting that slip if he's not careful.
At this point, both of these racers need to try and run a tight ship. If they start to battle, and look at these two pro racers right behind Ubaldo Diaz and John Bodefer. They are right on top of each other, and that gap between themselves and Odo is not massive. That is just enough whereby Diaz is there to pounce. That draft is still coming off the back of that number 15 machine onto the front end of the 108. We may end up seeing those two continue to close up. Meanwhile, in the M category, Charles Krasik getting past Jose Gonzalez. That's good for Krasik as one of the competitors in this field trying to get a good points haul here. Not good for Jose Gonzalez. Talking about the dominance that he had a little bit earlier on this season in that AM category, he had won 3 of the first 5 races, and then last time out at Watkins Glen, it just was not a good performance from him, and looking to be more the same right now as he's running in P13 right behind the lone Flying Line racing car of Charles Krasik. We talked about the championship battle for the Pro Teams Championship. I haven't even mentioned the fact that with J.R. Gregory not being here, Charles Krasik having to fly solo for Flying Lion.
Yeah, that is very good point actually, because the team's championship in the AM's very close. at the moment, as we saw at the top of the show. Just 2 points separating Lima Racing from Flying Lion, as we go up to Robert Neville and Adrian Fernandez here, battling for third place in the AMS. The top 6 are a long way ahead of the rest of the field, and this is almost a different race now. And so just try and get what they can from back here, which will be third place in the AMS, if indeed for the winner of this group. But these are 3 drivers who slightly delayed from that opening part of the race. And a bit of a slide it looked like there for Fernandez, as Joel Jacquelin's trying to regain some places, and that was Neville wide as well. There's all sorts of mistakes happening here. Oh, and that's a big dive as well, down into Le Mans corner. Joel Jacquelin definitely wants to clear these guys as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I don't think Joel Jacquelin wants anything to do with this drama. I don't think any of these racers want anything to do with this drama. Jacquelin still trying to fight with Fernandez as they head their way down to Sunset Bend. They are still going to be squabbling up, heading through the bumpiest part of this track. These SR10s, as I've said many, many times before, and will say many, many more times far off into the future, they do not like the bumps at all. So Joel Jacquelin getting that move done, heading off through Sunset Bend. That's a miracle, but here we go. Fernandez looking to fight back as well in the 127 car. They're close. Jacquelin runs a little bit wide. Coming through the turn of Fernandez, going to fight back with the inside line. Down to 3. Down to the braking zone they're going to go. And through into P8 goes Fernandez. That's music to the ears of Neville, who uses that opportunity to drive off into the sunset. But that was not ideal there at all for Jacquelin as he headed his way down to 1.
No. He is definitely quicker than these guys, but he's just struggling to get through. Here he goes in towards turn 7 now on the outside line. He's got his nose in front, but he's a long way round there. And that little left-hander after the hairpin itself there, turn 7, is just prevents you from making a move just quite as readily as you'd maybe like to. Here he comes to the outside again now. Jacquelin on the way down in towards Cunningham corner. Right round the outside he goes. Just Jacquelin on Fernandez, and up into 8th place. This, meanwhile, is what happened to Charles Kresic earlier on. Into Sunset Bend. He's already a bit sideways, and he is... Oh! What is he doing? Oh. He's very loose, and he does avoid the pit lane. I actually thought he was doing a very extravagant, weird pit entry there for a stage, but no, he was just having a massive slide coming out the final turn.
Yeah, I don't think the Sebring slide pit entry is necessarily a good strategy there. I don't think it was intentional either. A huge moment for him coming out of the final turn. The fact he didn't smack that pit abutment and ruin that race car is an absolute out-and-out miracle for him. He's still in this race, running down in P11. His tires have probably been turned down to rectangles as a result of all that, but you know, you gotta crack a couple eggs and make an omelet, I guess. We jump back to this battle involving John Bodefer and Ubaldo Diaz. These two were within striking distance of that duo of Young and Odo, who have also spread out a little bit. So I think Odo deciding to just remain in that drift, get the good fuel number as this race continues on. But Bodefer and Diaz, they're slowly but surely losing touch with those two. Mistakes piling up as Bodefer runs a little bit wide as we saw him come out of turn number 5. That may give Diaz a shot if he wants to take it, hang down to the hairpin. Don't think he will. But these two looking to try and return to form. John Bodefer, of course, had that fantastic run last time out Watkins Glen, and Ubaldo Diaz yet to visit victory lane ever since his first win of the championship at Road America, and after getting struck by an early falling anvil at the Glen, I think he wants to bounce back.
And there is the look back from Bodefer there. I did initially see, by the way, Graham Sanders in this session as well, but he's not anymore, so it is just one Tolpec and one ERC driver here as far as the teams are concerned for the pros, so it is still going to stay close actually between those two teams, thankfully. Ubaldo Diaz racing as a solo for Vima Racing team. He's the only one from that team, so he's running in 4th at the moment, and Bodefer is with him just 2 seconds or so behind Ryan Odo, clinging on to the slipstream of Hayden Young at the moment, but not by much. Young is clearly the fastest driver in this race at the moment, and 0.8 of a second, it's just hovering around. That mistake from Odo there when they were super close earlier through Towers, proving to be very costly for the championship second place man, as Diaz goes back down the inside again and back through again into 3rd place.
And pretty uncontested there. I think these two decide to play the fuel game at this point of the race. I feel like everybody is, to a certain extent, swapping spots, deciding to leapfrog in front of one another. We have seen the fuel strategy and the race strategy throughout these events thus far here in 2025 for the Radical America Championship really decide these drivers' fates. I think that's exactly what they're doing right now for the most part. As we jump back to this battle involving Joel Jacklin, he's currently trying to squabble up right now, side by side, down into the turn. It's himself and James Fransnick battling hard down into the turn. Jacklin gonna hold on to that spot potentially. Fransnick keep that momentum rolling on the high side, but there's only so much you can do. Will he be able to clear him as they come at turn number 3? He may not. That was some close quarter stuff. Heading down side by side through turn number 3, immediately followed by 4. We've seen it happen a lot in real life, and we've seen a lot happen in the sim as well. Side by side racing through there. If it doesn't end clean, it usually ends in disaster.
Look down the inside again from Fransnick here, and a late one from Fernandez on Krasic. Very late on the brakes there from Jacklin. Every time he seems to take a step forward and get past Fransnick, he gives the place away immediately, and he loses that. Now he's down to 9th. Here comes Fernandez with Krasic not too far in behind. Oh, that was close again. But Jacklin on the defensive from Fernandez and Krasic. He's, again, I reckon he's quicker than all of these guys, but it's a skill getting through drivers who are slower than you efficiently, and at the moment Jacklin's not showing that. That's why from Fransnick, now he's got to put this one to bed, Jacklin, by getting through here into Bishop and maybe into Le Mans chicane as well. But no, again, he's got the run, he's got nowhere to go. There's 2 battling behind him, he's got to be careful. Oh, big slide from Fernandez there. Oh, sorry, from Krasic actually, who goes off the road, and Fernandez gets down the inside of him. Oh, and straight into the side of Krasic. Fernandez dives down the inside, and Krasic is off the circuit.
And Odo has come down pit lane at the front of this field, so those two splitting their strategies as Charles Krasic in that flying line racing car going to have some damage for sure. That was an ugly series of events heading off through the final few turns, but it can happen very easily in these events, down to 15 and 16 right towards the back half of the circuit. If you go side by side through there and whack those curbs, even look at them the wrong way, it can usually end in tears. Tough break for all of those competitors involved. Ryan Odo out and away, 15.3 seconds to stop for him. John Benlett has come down pit lane as well, along with a massive chunk of that AM category. Jared Dunkovich, your AM leader, stays out for one more lap, but just about everybody else has come down pit lane. I mean, it is that pit window, fully expecting everybody else to follow in suit, but the pit's getting flooded with SR10s.
It's certainly with AM SR10s, that's for sure. As the opening pit stops in the AM's pretty much complete. Dunkovich, the only one not to have stopped. Gonzalez, Bocahion and Castillo had already been in pit lane. There's the vision on the way out of pit lane for Krasic. 17 seconds in the box for him, and he's going to be right in amongst us, behind quite a lot of those guys after that latest spin for him. So about 15 minutes gone here, and I wonder why Odo has decided to go 1 lap early here. Very interesting call indeed. Going to be very interesting to see if Young responds here and how many seconds he decides to pit in with as well. I would, if I were to guess, he'll go for a shorter stop this time, but let's see.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that Ryan Odo's angling for a very short stop in the second stop of this race. As we take a look at that moment involving Charles Krasic, it's so tough heading off through there. I was fully expecting that to end in disaster about 5 times. There were sideways snaps as soon as I saw Krasic hop that curb. I have been a victim of an SR10 hopping that curb and running straight to the side of me, so I was fully expecting that to be the drama that took place, but no. And meanwhile, we got the top 4 all coming down pit lane in unison.
They were the last ones to need to stop, and they all do. So Young pulls into his box first. Butterfly and Diaz probably going to have some short ones here as well to try and get themselves into the mix, but let's wait and see. Young passes 10 seconds now, getting towards the stage now where Odo got to at 15 seconds. Will it be longer? It will be. By looks things, in fact, it's almost exactly the same there for Hayden Young. Only 15.2. There comes Odo on the racetrack. He's got a very good outlap here as Ryan Odo, and he's right there again. The 2 leaders nose to tail again. And Diaz and Butterford do not try anything extravagant to get with these 2. They're running their own strategy. Very long stops across the board, I must say. 15 seconds is about the shortest in the field, which is relatively unusual.
And I will say, and this is honest, if Ryan Odo's angling for that very short stop come time for the second round of stops later on in this event, he is going to be smelling like a bed of roses leaving this race here at Sebring. He is right there to pounce on Aiden Young, who's still trying to get his tires up to temperature. Don't really have to worry about tire swaps in these races, but that slow trundle down pit lane, that slow crawl, going to be enough to lose a little bit of tire temperature, which in these SR10s can be absolutely vital. Just want to touch on the track temperatures as it stands here in this race as we look at Aiden Young. I think he's probably gotten his tires up to temperature, at least very close to it as it stands right now, heading his way down to the tower bend of turn number 13. Track temperature is currently looking at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 25 C. Ambient temperature is not much cooler at 74 Fahrenheit and 24 C. So pretty much right in that window for it to be rather all right for these drivers. It's not bone-chillingly cold, so it's not like those tires will be giant black icicles on these cars.
Sebring's fallen over, looks like, in the at the bottom right. Yeah,
I didn't know Sebring was down in Australia.
Is that very good? Yes. Oh, and a look from Odo into the final turn. Not quite on this occasion. Yeah, no tyres, of course, taken in these radicals. As Aiden Young now knows, if you remember back to round 1, he accidentally took them because he thought that they were taken on at the same time as fuel in these cars. The Nordschleife, the opening round, ended up finishing 6th that afternoon, which was quite. Oh, sorry. No, it was 6th. Yeah. He finished quite a long way down compared to where you'd normally expect to see him. But at 6th place, still not bad, considering he did take tyres. And he's sort of overcome all that now, and he's had some very, very consistent runs since then. In fact, that is his worst round of the season. These two have just been so strong all season long. And the last time that either of them, both of them finished off the podium, it hasn't happened yet. They are both unbelievable. It's been one of them on the podium every single time. And it looks like it's going to be the case again with both of them on the podium, just like it was at Watkins Glen. Hopefully it's going to be just the same exciting finale as it was back then as well. Here we go into Cunningham corner. Odo super close again. Odo saving fuel again, though, on this braking zone.
An interesting call there from Odo, trying to get that good fuel number. I still think he is aiming to try and win this race through the pitch strategy. He was involved in a titanic battle with himself and Young last time out at Watkins Glen. He doesn't want to have that stress towards the end of this race. Look at them, 3 wide at the bottom of your screen. That's Adrian Fernandez hauling it. Oh, that's a spin for Franz coming out of the hairpin. He's going to spin out of a spot in P12. He's going to drop down like a rock. It was himself, Joel Jacklin, Fernandez battling hard. Adrian Fernandez sticking it 3 wide down to the hairpin. That was gutsy.
Well, that is a shame for Franznik. He got sort of overexcited, really, seeing what was going on in front, and wanted to make up places, but couldn't quite do it, and indeed spins around. Odo's getting really close into the final turn, by the way. It seems that is going to be his place to make the move when he comes to need that. Although Young seems to be lifting off on the way into that corner as well. So very interesting games being played between these two. It's all well and good being the second place driver. They're lifting off and using the slipstream. But if the driver in front is actually doing the same, then actually you don't get much of a gain from being in second place. You just sort of slow each other down. And, well, we'll see whether they're actually doing that when Alberto Diaz catches up, or he won't catch up if they're not. But, yeah, Young can very much negate the fuel being saved by Ryan Odo by just slowing down here.
Yeah, there is certainly a way that you can play it and make it work as we take a look at that replay involving James Franznik just gets it up too quickly coming out of the turn, doubly so in these nighttime dark and colder conditions. You can really light up the tires coming out of that hairpin. Unfortunate moment for Franznik. Very easy mistake to make, to be sure, but an unfortunate one nonetheless. He's now dropped down to lucky number P13. He'll have to hope for a miracle to try and close up that gap to himself and some of the racers a little bit farther up the road. But no, the strategy, such a huge factor in these events all throughout this season, Ewan. I mean, thinking about the previous 6 rounds of this championship that we have, you haven't been here for all of them, but I have. But I will still ask you this question because I whacked my head too much as a kid. Name a race thus far this season that hasn't been decided to a certain extent by strategy.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're asking the wrong person to remember all the races, by the way, which is a mistake. But, but yeah.
See, I asked that as someone who doesn't even remember what he had for dinner tonight.
I can't either now. What did I have? Anyway, I'll think about it. Into Sunset. He's close again, Odo, but no, couldn't quite get past on that occasion from Aiden Young. Oh, I've remembered. Well, anyway, you get the point. It's not very good memory. But the point being, and we'll get to it in a second. If Odo doesn't go for a move here in towards turn number 1, which he doesn't, it's the case in the Radical Sim Racing Championship, isn't it? Doesn't matter whether it's the European or the Americas rounds. They're all the same in that. Strategy is such the key factor, and it's a brilliant thing in this series as well. The way that it's sort of marked out is that it's forcing 2 stops, but it leaves the pit windows very wide, and it leaves the amount of time that you spend in each pit stop very open, and that's what keeps the strategy so interesting about this series across the board.
And to those tuning into this broadcast here on RaceSpotTV who may have been around for the 2024 Radical Americas Championship, I had the other privilege of being on the call for all but one of those races where I was so sick that I completely lost out on my voice, which was news that was met with positive glee from all the people in the iRacing community. But no, last season we had a rather different format to this. We still had 60 minutes of racing action, but we had a 15-minute sprint leading into a 45-minute long feature. 15 minutes, obviously not going to see a pit stop in that. 45 minutes, though, in that race only had 1 stop. Here, though, they've done a little bit to try and limit the amount of fuel these drivers can have in their car at any given point in time. They've also obviously put those 2 race lengths together and just turned into 1. I gotta say, the people over at Radical Sim Racing have done an absolutely fantastic job cooking up this series format here for 2025. Here in the Americas Championship has been absolutely awesome, and you and I know you've been on the call for the European Championship races here in 2025 as well. It's been a fantastic format up to this point, giving us some good racing, giving us some good strategy content to talk about as well.
As Odo goes for the lead, meantime, on the inside of Sunset Bend, Aiden Young has to give over the place. And, well, how long is he going to sit there and just take that here in second place? Is he going to immediately respond by looking down the inside again? The answer to that is no for now, but there's still 36 minutes to go. And Odo is ahead as far as the fuel gains are concerned because his pit stop was slightly longer. Having said that, it's only a 10th, so not worth losing sleep over at the moment for Aiden Young. That is an important one and a decisive moment in this race as well, because there were stages in that first stint where Ryan Odo looked like the second quickest driver by a little bit of a margin.
Yeah, that's a very good gain from Odo. Once again, proving that, hey, you may be holding on to the race lead, but I still have your number. The mind games in one of these races can play a huge factor as well. We've already seen it to a large extent up to this point here in the championship. These two playing cat and mouse with each other ever since the drop of the green flag at the Nordschleife. When we saw Aiden Young in that first round of the championship, frankly, the only reason why he wasn't in contention for the win in that race was down to the fact that it being his first race, he had a very long first stop, and he still walked away with a pretty solid result from that race as well. Ever since then, Odo and Young have been the one to keep eyes on when it comes to the championship, as we see Charles Krasik going so deep off into the hairpin of turn number 7. I think he very well may have ended up on the Gulf of Mexico if that barrier wasn't there.
And he's probably brought a load of sand and dirt onto the circuit there as well by spinning his rear tyres up like that, but which the next drivers to go through there, like Gregory Castillo and these 2 leaders, won't be too thankful for. But there you go. That was a big spin for him. Aiden Young gets close again, and he retakes the lead again here from Ryan Odo. You'll notice we're not getting too excited over this at the moment. Ask us again in 30 minutes' time, and it will be a big moment, the lead changing. But these two seem very, very evenly matched, and maybe they've fallen into a pattern here of exchanging the lead each time.
Yeah, just trying to get that good fuel number and trying not to be stagnant too much. I will say, speaking of one racer that could potentially throw a big wrench in the works in all of this, is the 3rd place runner, the 108 car, Ubaldo Diaz, has breaking away from John Bodever and is now only 3 seconds back of your race leader of Aiden Young. There he is right now in that 108 machine, heading his way down through turn number 5 right now. You'll still need to have those two really start to battle hard and hope that he can put together a string of consistent and solidly quick lap times in order to break into the draft of those 2 cars a little bit farther up the road. But for Ubaldo Diaz, it is not a brick wall that he faces. There is a path forward for him to maybe do well in this race. Keep an eye out on that 108 car as a potential spoiler once we get a little bit farther along in this round.
It's worth remembering as well that Botafour did a 2.5 seconds shorter in the box than what the others did. So he could well gain some of that time back again when we take on the second round of stops, which will be probably for him coming in about 20 minutes time. It will be fairly late on when that second stop is done. Diaz is just edging a little bit closer to these two, who will be pushing hard. So if Diaz can recatch them, then that's a big statement from him in that third place. But let's wait and see. He's got a long way to go yet, and he's probably better focused on Botafour behind and distancing him. You can not really even see the tail lights up ahead, or maybe that's just my eyes. It's pretty dark out there at Sebring right now. As Odo gets closer on the way towards Sunset Bend again. He won't exchange the lead again, though. So they had a couple of laps of an agreement there, did the front two, but now they've decided to get back in single file again, and Young is clearly a lot more comfortable leading.
Yeah, he's comfortable being the hole punch, so to speak. He's punching the hole in the air and giving Ryan Odo a good draft. I think Odo is very content with running in that spot right now, getting some better fuel numbers. Again, I've said this a lot throughout this broadcast. I'll say it again. I think Ryan Odo is looking to try and win this race through strategy, and let's see if he will be able to get the job done there. I also like how you said that it may be your eyes. My feet would work better as eyes, as my eyes work as eyes, so I can absolutely join you in that regard there. Do want to touch on some of the strategy in the AM category, though, as Jared Dunkovic, your dominant race leader in that class. The battling farther behind, though, really up in the air. We saw that titanic battle with some of those AM racers right towards the end of that previous stint, and it's still looking pretty hair-raising as it stands right now. Speaking of, Adrian Fernandez and Robert Neville giving us a good little battle to talk about, heading down that start-finish stretch off into turn number 1. Fernandez looking to sweep around the outside. He holds on to P9. Well done to Fernandez as a nearly touch again, heading down into turn number 3. I think Neville nearly went off the track there. I was fully expecting that car to just spear off into the barrier. He holds on to the car and holds on to P10 as it stands right now, which is just going to say that we do have a few racers in that AM category who spent far less time in their first stint and far more time in this one. Colby Buck currently slotted as it stands right now in P8. He's currently 13 laps into the stint right now. The same could be said about Gregory Castillo. So lots of varied strategies in the AM category. You have a spread of about 7 laps between one driver, Stint, who's been out there for the least amount of time in this current stint in the form of your current AM leader of Jared Dunkovic, and then you go to Buck in P8, 13 laps into that stint compared to Dunkovic's 6. So rather split in that AM category. Of course, the drama may have played a hand into it, but it seems like nobody in the AM category really knows what the right strategy is for this race here at Sebring.
Yeah, it's a lot more split than in the pros, which is quite unusual. As I mentioned earlier, it's very unusual to see it so unsplit, actually, in the pro field. But, yeah, Dunkovic, despite having such a big lead, you'd think, well, he's taken a short stop, so surely that's going to be brought back. That's not quite as much the case as you might think, with just a 4.3 second less stop than Benlid. And he's certainly got more than that as an advantage right now, as Ryan Odo continues in the slipstream of Aiden Young. You can see those last couple of lap times when he's been leading for these last 2 laps. Young's very consistent, 54.4 on the last couple of occasions. I must say, and this is another great thing about the Radical Sim Racing European and Americas Championships and the World Finals that we're going to see in November as we keep previewing. In fact, I think it's pretty much 3 months this weekend, actually, which feels like a long way away, but it will come up very quickly. It sort of bubbles up throughout the season, doesn't it? You get 2 great championship battles over 2 different regions, and then you get to see them go against one another. And, you know, I think the Americas region's got more reason to be positive, maybe than ever before, with Aiden Young and Ryan Odo going so well this year.
Oh, yeah, they've been putting in some really good performances. And even over on the AM side of things, I think they have some very good competitors to run in that class. Jared Dunkovic, we have seen him a lot this season, and we've seen him a lot over on the official side of things. Over the past couple of weeks, we have seen him run in many races. A black flag for Gregory Castillo. Things going from bad to worse for the driver of the number 12 machine. He's your current last place runner and will come down pit lane to try and serve that black flag, as I thought Ryan Oda was going to go for a move hang down to Sunset Bend. These two start to turn up the wick a little bit at the front of the field once again. I think that temporary truce that they've been locked in over the past couple laps starting to fade away. And I think part of the reason why that is the case, if we hear under the roar of these 40 EcoBoost engines in these Radical SR10s, we can start to hear the Jaws theme play. Ubaldo Diaz slowly but surely reeling in these racers. He's not taking huge swings at, he's not chopping at this gap with an axe or a chainsaw or anything of the sorts. He's just slowly and methodically working at it. And if he can keep up that same progress, Ubaldo Diaz, as I said a little bit earlier on in this show, he may have a very good shot of giving these two a bit of a headache.
Absolutely. Definitely getting closer. Just a really painfully slow gap to be coming down, really, which is not particularly helpful, especially when you haven't got very much of an advantage to gain in the pit lane. They're so similar across the board, these three. It's going to matter a lot how much fuel they've saved this time round, and you think if anyone's fuel saving here, it's going to be Young and Odo, and Diaz might have to put a little bit more fuel in at that final stop, so that could just halt him a little bit in this battle for the win. As on the bottom of your screen, Fernandez and Neville continue to fight. From Gonzalez, who's in third, right the way down really to Jacqueline, to be honest, in 13th place overall and 8th in class. It's fairly close, really. There's a lot of small gaps, but Gonzalez has done a good job to even get into 7th after his start of the race.
Ooh, as I thought I was just going to see an accident there on the bottom of the screen with Neville and Fernandez. Neville carrying a whole lot of speed, heading down into the hairpin and nearly running into the back of Fernandez, going to lose him a decent amount of time as that gap balloons out, heading down into turn number 10 of Cunningham. One corner that really we haven't seen too much of trouble for these racers, but behind the cockpit it can be super, super tough. I say this as someone who has a decent amount of experience running the SR10 around this race track. The braking zone hang down to the hairpin of turn number 7. Despite being a good overtaking opportunity, it is also such an easy spot to lose it. We've already seen drivers spit up the rears on corner exits, but he can also lock up a wheel very easily. The brakes in these SR10s I could best describe as touchy. There is about a 5% window between not being able to stop in time and plowing into the car right in front of you, or locking up both front tires and going into the turn in a cloud of smoke with a fire suit full of bodily waste.
It's still 26 minutes to go, and still awaiting the first final pit stops of the day. I'm not counting Gregory Castillo quite, although maybe I should. Got a black flag, of course, and so we'll be doing well to not finish down towards the back end of the field here this afternoon. As far as those who have taken short stops go, Colby Buck will probably be first, and then it'll be the leaders who are into the pit lane. And that could create a problem if these guys have to pit earlier than most of the AM field. Where are they going to come out? Are they going to end up ahead of the likes of Ben Lid and Gonzalez, or are they going to end up in some of these big midfield battles we're seeing in the AMs? They maybe have got enough of a gap, but they don't want to end up in this sort of traffic.
You know, that's a fantastic point that you raised there. If you're a top running racer in this event and you come into the pits and you exit out right as pandemonium breaks out, you're not going to be feeling very splendid about the end of this race. Even if it's a brief period of time, it's still enough for a lot of drama to take place. It's basically, I could best describe it as back in your school days, let's just say, leaving the lunchroom, going off to the restroom, and when you come back, there's a massive 15-person brawl. That may be just my perspective because I went to school in the city of Philadelphia, so that's not too uncommon of an occurrence. That's basically what it is for these top running racers if they come down pit lane and come out in the midst of an AM battle straight out of a war movie.
Well, let's hope for these guys' sake that they won't. I mean, it should be okay. They spend about 23 seconds in pit lane. That'll probably be about 18 seconds time loss in reality. And then you've got the stop itself. Could lose about 30 seconds. So I think Dunkovic would probably get past, but he might have to stop with them. And he won't be much of an obstacle because he'd just be on his own. He's continuing to extend his lead, actually, Dunkovic. And this is becoming a dominant day, actually, for the driver of number 9. as Colby Buck comes in. So it won't be too long until those leaders are in now. But yeah, a word on Dunkovic really. He's where he qualified. He's a sort of pro-am, if you like. He's better than all the AMs, but all the pros are racing away from him.
And touching on that pit stop from Colby Buck, that comes 17 laps into this stint. So if that is any logic to run by on, I think the next driver we'll see come down pit lane would be Jose Gonzalez in the number 21 machine. He's currently 14 laps into his stint. Currently 13 laps into his respective stint is Cedric Ohayon. So probably going to see another smattering of racers make that call to come down pit lane soon. And in terms of time as well, that pit window usually opens up for the final stops around 18 to 20 minutes left to go on the clock. So for most of these racers, they're still a little bit a ways away from that next round of stops. But as we get closer and closer to that, we're going to start to see these racers turn up the wick a little bit, turn up the gas on that burner, and try and start to boil that pot over a little bit. Get in your other competitor's head. Try and make up that ground as well. Some racers have maybe been playing that fuel-saving game, and now they can say, you know what, I'm comfortably at my number. Now I can try and go for this gap. I think one of those racers who falls into that category may be Ryan Odo. He's been running patient behind Aiden Young, allowing Young to punch that hole in the air, while Odo has been enjoying that draft. He's probably eyeing up winning this race through strategy, as I've said many, many times throughout this show, but I still think there's a lot of truth said in just. Knowing my luck, though, that prediction from me is probably going to age like milk, and Odo is going to try and just battle it out for the win, which hey, I don't think we'll mind one bit here on the broadcast. A battle between two of the best thus far this season for the win as we get to the end of this season. I don't think either of us would complain about that one bit. Our vocal cords maybe, ourselves no.
Well, you can see actually that what that phenomenon you were just describing is starting to happen for these two because Aiden Young set his personal best lap of the race last time around. He was the only driver to do that apart from Robert Neville, who also did the same on that previous lap. So it's go time for some of these guys, and especially for Young, who's maybe trying to put a bit of distance between himself and Odo. And you can see that those few temps that Ubaldo Diaz gained as well from third have gone away. John Butterfield, though, can't keep with the pace of Diaz, who's looking like he's securing a podium place as things stand. And Butterfield is going to lose points for Solpec in the team's race, with ERC gaining a little bit. Ryan Odo, of course, the only ERC driver. Butterfield, the only Solpec driver in the race today at Sebring. Another stop last time round for Cedric Ohayon further down as these two come into the final corner. If they're coming in this time, Odo might as well try and go for the move, but no, they're not both coming in. They're carrying on again. 21 minutes to go, and Diaz comes in the background. He took the same amount of fuel as these two last time round.
So Ubaldo Diaz, interesting call to come down pit lane for him in that 108 car. That'll cede P3 to John Bodefer. Gotta wonder what the strategy will play out for him. And the number 76 car saw him throw a little bit of an interesting curveball at the first pit stop. Let's see how it'll work out for him. Will anybody else join Ubaldo Diaz in this call to come down pit lane here? Looking through, I don't think anybody else has come down pit lane just yet. Keyword being yet, but I wonder now, will Diaz just come in so much earlier than everybody else? Looking at the amount of laps that he spent in that stint, only about 12 laps, so not a terribly long stint from Diaz. I think he maybe could have pushed it a little bit. He must have seen something on his relative or some sort of system he has to say, hey, if I come into the pits right now, I'm going to get a strong enough draft from John Benlid. There you see it right in front of him. He comes out in that perfect window. Benlid right in front, a pretty strong racer off the back of a win in the AM category the last time out at Watkins Glen. He's going to give Diaz a draft, so his lap times won't be too bad, will the driver of the 108, but he also doesn't have any cars right behind him to try and pressure him into any sort of mistake. This may be a masterstroke from Ubaldo Diaz.
Lap time's not bad for Benlid, but you've got to remember that Benlid lost 1.3 to Butterfield last time round, and that could be the real problem in this race. That's the real gap that we're talking about. Meantime, Ryan Odo has disappeared from the session. Has Ryan Odo disconnected from this session as Diaz goes down the inside of Benlid? I fear that the second place man in the championship has dropped out here and may well not be coming back here at Sebring. The grandstand finish between himself and Aiden Young may not ever arrive, as driver of number 15 has completely disappeared. There must be some connection faults there as Aiden Young comes in. It was going to be the lap they pitted And Ryan Odo will never make it to pit lane because he disconnects from this race with just less than 20 minutes to go.
I'm looking through right now. He's not reappeared out on the track. We're not seeing any sort of disconnect from him just yet, but his internet quality is deep in the red compared to everybody else at either 100 or 99. He's down at a big round 18. So Ryan Odo, if that is him dipping out of this race, that is going to be music to the ears. Unfortunate music to be sure, but music to the ears for Aiden Young as he comes out of the pits. 14 seconds stopped on pit lane. Ubaldo Diaz going to be right there to pounce as well, but Aiden Young, he may have just gone a blessing to end all blessings. Odo still not reappearing. That may have just sealed it for Young.
And Dunkovic coming in means that there's definitely no traffic for him. So it's looking good now for Young. And there's Benlid, who won't be able to stay with Diaz as expected. You can see on the left-hand side the amount of pit stops that they've made alongside the gap to the leader as well. And it's looking like in both classes the lead is fairly secure for both Aiden Young and for Jarek Dunkovic as well. Unless Benlid's got something really up his sleeve in these final few moments. He will pit quite late, of course, because his first stop was 20.7 seconds. In fact, longer than anybody's, so he'll be able to go a long way. As Robert Neville also pits in, one of the final few now to have to make their stop here this afternoon. And he now pulls away. 27 seconds in the box seems like a very long time, but he was up on the jack, so he might have accidentally taken tyres there.
As we see this race continue to develop, do want to wrap up on that storyline. Ryan Odo has now reconnected to the session. It's an upload packet loss issue for him. His sim crashed, and that is going to be a huge twist. And not just this race, but the championship fight as well. Odo, it looked like he was on fire at the moment, getting some good results. Won his second round of the championship about 2 months ago. Entering that summer break with a lot of momentum, it looked like he was going to keep it rolling. Frankly, I still think he may have had this race won if he could have played that strategy out. The dream is not going to come alive here.
No, and Aiden Young is going to pull away a long way ahead of the rest now with that with this performance. Odo is going to take this as a drop round. His previous worst race is ninth place finish, which he's not going to be able to replicate here, you wouldn't imagine. So this is going to become a drop round. That means 15.8 will be added to his score. Botafour's going to have at least 80 added to his. And have I got that right? Maybe not. Anyway, I'll figure it out in a moment. But what I'm trying to say is that actually he should maybe less focus on the fact that the gap from Aiden Young is going to go from 1 point to, 20 odd, 30 odd, whatever it's going to be. He should more look over his shoulder actually at John Botafour, because I reckon that gap is going to come down just a little bit here. And Ubaldo Diaz as well. It's worth remembering that while there are only 4 pros, they are the first 4 in the championship, and to lose this amount of points to them is pretty bad news for Ryan Odo.
I will say, talking about the chance of this becoming more than just a 2-horse race in the championship, I flashed my mind back to last year in the Radical Americas Championship, where at a certain point in time, it looked like a 3-horse race between eventual champion Lucas Vieira, Ryan Odo, who came up second, and Franco Sanchez, who is a hard contender for that championship a little bit towards the end of that season. But here, what we saw in 2024 was Lucas Vieira not really going out and being the flashiest racer in the world. He was just always there at the end, got those good results, and kept those bad ones down to an absolute minimum, and it helped him win that championship. If a driver like John Botafour can get the deal done. I mean, let's face it, Botafour, he hasn't gotten a win up to this point in the season, but his bad days haven't been bad. He's been consistent all throughout this season. Military consistency from John Botafour in that number 67 car. If he can maintain that and gets a couple of good results towards the end of the season, John Botafour may be a quiet pick to potentially grab a rather shock result in that championship fight.
Yeah, he starts the day 27 behind Odo. He moved to 15 behind as things stand, and I'm finally doing the maths properly. Ubaldo Diaz would get just 6 closer, and so he would be 36 behind still. Aiden Young would go from 1 point out front to at least 23 out front. Of course, this is before I've even taken into account any bonus points, which are going to come a lot of these guys' way. So this is all very provisional, of course, and the gap is likely going to be larger than what I'm already saying now. And in the Teams Championship, Ron, it's worth remembering that no rounds are dropped. So Solpec and ERC have to take both of their drivers, in this case just one of their drivers, scores in their entirety, no matter what they are. So it's a huge day in the Teams Championship because it's gone from a sort of, maybe ERC can pull this back at 49 to, they might be about to lose 49 points in one day.
And that is a fantastic point that you raised there, talking about that Pro Championship fight. Still a lot at stake in that Teams Championship battle. And if Solpec holds on to this, we are keeping our fingers crossed that the sad commentator Shanks falling anvil doesn't come down on Jean Bodefer between now and the checkered flag. If he remains in P2, even if he drops down behind Ubaldo Diaz, that is still going to be a massive points haul for Solpec. So, frankly, Team ERC, as we enter off into the final few months of this championship, with only 3 races left to go in about 13 minutes time once we wrap up this race here at Sebring, they are gonna have to throw a huge swing at it towards the end. Frankly, Solpec, all they need to do is just show up to the races and keep it calm, and they would potentially walk away from the championship with that Team's Championship in the pro category. So again, proving that consistency can be important. They don't have the wins in the case of Solpec, but Team ERC has just been about, it's bad to say, they've been about as consistent as expired mayonnaise to a certain point. Nothing that Ron Odo could do here tonight, just really tough luck. But inconsistency is still inconsistency. Doesn't matter how that falling anvil landed on your head, you're still going to be the one with a migraine in the morning.
I mean, it's just a real shame all ways round for Ryan Odo, and including for us, because we were looking forward to a grandstand finish there between those two, but just as it was about to begin, we're not going to get it. The battle for third in AMS will have to do. James Franznik comes through into 6th place overall there. And by the way, because the AMS are so far up the field today, and now even further up, each position up here is worth 4 points each. In fact, that's the case from 11th place all the way up to 4th. So that's exactly where these guys are at the moment. And very important for Jose Gonzalez, because John Benelid's in front and Jarek Dunkovic. Those are the 2 closest drivers to Gonzalez in the championship. And each time Franznik or Fernandez passes him, he's got the prospect of losing a further 4 points to Dunkovic and Benelid, who pull a little bit closer to him in the fight for the championship of the AMS as well.
And that is a wonderful point that you raised there again, Ewan, talking about that AM battling up towards the front of the field has a bit more potency to it, has a bit more concentration due to the points in these higher up positions. So we may start to see these racers really throw haymakers at it. Jose Gonzalez looking to try and minimize the damage. I gotta say, props where props are due to the driver of the number 21 car, Jose Gonzalez. At one point in this race, we really discounted that Vima Racing Team driver. Yeah. As he got involved in a moment hang down into turn number 3. And now he's back up here in P4 in class and has a shot at a podium in the AM category. It would still wouldn't be a fantastic night compared to the wins that have come before, but for Jose Gonzalez, that would still be a pretty good bad night to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he should be able to close out third as well, but Franznik and Fernandez have shown to be pretty feisty so far as well. And they've got just over 10 minutes here to continue to fight with Gonzalez, and I'm sure that they will in the next few moments. There goes Franznik, just weaving to defend slightly. This is what happens on the Ullman Straight as you close in. Outside line for Gonzalez. He's not quite far enough alongside, I don't think, to go all the way around there this time. He's making a good fist of it. He's still alongside as well. Franznik forced to give him the room, and yes, so Jose Gonzalez doesn't get it all done in one turn, but he can set himself up nicely for the inside at the next corner, and here he goes. Very tight line, and outside of the yellow lines that mark the track limits. Oh, very nearly Franznik gets into the back of him, but no, he has to stand on the brakes, and here comes Fernandez down the inside at turn 3, straight through into 7th position. So, oh dear, and the lap car off as well. That's Costello, who's just off the road, but Gonzalez back to 3rd again, where you'd think he should be able to finish.
As we hold on to this camera shot, now running on board with Adrian Fernandez. He's been at the epicenter of a lot of drama throughout tonight's broadcast here at Sebring, that 127 car. He's had a pretty good season up to this point, a little bit under the radar, but this is a good performance that we're seeing from Adrian Fernandez as he heads his way through Fangio. Less than 10 minutes left to go here in this race, and he's still looking to cut some shape side by side with himself and Jose Gonzalez. Heading down to turn number 10, Fernandez gonna get that move done with the command on the inside, and he clears him just barely as they head their way off through Collier Bend of turn number 11. That's a sketchy turn in these SR10s. Even more sketchy when you're going through it side by side.
And again, this battle twists and turns in the final 10 minutes. We've seen this all day from the AMs, really. They have been very, very close all the way throughout. And, well, it's happening again here on this lap. Gonzalez in second place, this time with Fernandez ahead, not James Franznik, who was the previous driver leading this group. And now down the Ullman straight they go again. Gonzalez getting that slipstream, which is relatively powerful in these SL10s. Quite well balanced, really, at this circuit. As he comes down the inside now, Gonzalez gets straight back through again. So he's continuing to make this overtake for third, but struggling to keep it a little bit.
Yeah, so despite the fact he's been able to get this move done, he's still having to fight hard as here we go side by side down to turn number 1. That's Adrian Fernandez fighting on the inside of the 21 of Gonzalez, who's going to back out of this bite. Oh, neither of them do. I thought I was going to see that. Nearly took a bite out of that car to the 21 of Jose Gonzalez. That could have ended in disaster as they came out of turn number 1 side by side. They single fouled out before they had their way off into 3, but these racers really giving each other all sorts of hell. And Gonzalez having a bit of a wild ride coming out of turn number 5, dipped some wheels off into the dirt, and that car looked like a bucking Bronco coming out of it. But Gonzalez holding on to P7 as it stands right now. Franznik a little bit farther. No, he's right there to pass. My eyes were deceiving me. I thought it was a 3-second gap between those racers. So as I go to try and book an appointment to get my eyes checked out, we still follow this battling into 10.
There's nearly an overlap there for Franznik as well on Gonzalez, but couldn't do it. There it is, the three of them. A battle for 6th. Just over a minute off the lead of Aiden Young, which is still a relatively close battle out front between the 1 and 2 as well. 3.5 seconds as Fernandez gets very loose out of Tower and into Bishop. Gonzalez is going to go for it. Not a place you normally see it. The fast left-hander completely flat out, made rather difficult by the side-by-side and off. Gonzalez off. I'm not sure if there was contact with Franznik actually, but Gonzalez certainly off the road. And Franznik and Fernandez slip straight through. Gonzalez off the back of this group for 3rd place suddenly.
Yeah, and that is a huge kick in the shins for the driver, the number 21. We were talking just a couple of moments ago. Leaving this race with a result in the top 5 would be a pretty all right result, but the top 5 a little bit too far to reach. Even still a podium in that AM category would have been a good race for him, but now he's going to have to hope for these two to run into some sort of difficulties for him to get back brought into it. Here comes Franznik on the inside of Fernandez down to turn number 1. He clears him, but now Fernandez gonna look to fight back on the corner exit. Franznik blocking off that inside line. They're close to touching, heading down to turn number 3. These racers still battling with all that they have as we get to the end of this race. About 5.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Aiden Young still holding on to a comfortable lead as we take a look at that moment for Gonzalez. Just locks it up, heading down to turn number 15. Hits that curb, and after that, pretty much nothing he could do. If you're trying to run that curb on the outside, you're gonna get popped up and hit the wall big time.
Well, that's I thought there was contact the way he went off, but no, he just ran himself off the road there down into the chicane, which was a little bit bizarre from Jose Gonzalez, but there you go. Straight off the road and maybe out this group. Unless these two really fight, he's not going to get involved again before the last 5 minutes. So, yeah, he'll be hoping these two now get a bit closer, because Franznik just seems to be keeping Fernandez at arm's length, and if it stays like this, it's going to be very hard for Gonzalez to do anything. Aiden Young onto another lap, by the way, here, and has been for a little while. So I wonder whether it's 3 laps to go here at the line or 4. It's going to be 3, isn't it? As he went over the line that time round. So it'll be 3 as these guys get there. Franznik, though, is showing to have the speed over Fernandez. And maybe that's going to give him the head start over Gonzalez that he needs into the final 3 laps as well.
And we'll have to see as we get into the closing stages of this race what may shake out once again. We'll say it's been a rather hectic one here at Sebring. Lots of different twists and turns that we've had to take under the lights. And we mentioned this a lot during the Friday official race, considering that was the first night race we've had on the Radical Esports Cup official series in quite many moons since we had something like that. But I want to ask you, as we get towards the end of this race, how you think the night racing has really changed the way these competitors have had to tackle this. I mean, from our perspective, we've basically had to break out our binoculars and crank up the brightness on our monitors to see the drama going on in the shadows, but it still affects these racers quite a lot. Do you think that's really been a prevalent change for these competitors having to worry about racing under the lights?
I wonder whether it has been a little bit more than what we normally hype up in longer endurance races, even at the likes of the Nürburgring and Spa. It's relatively dark around the back of the circuit, but GT3 headlights are so strong. I think these radicals are less used to being run in the darkness, and I don't think the headlights are quite as. It certainly doesn't look to me as if the headlights are quite as good when we're riding on board. Maybe it's a different story when you're actually driving compared to GT3s and whatever. But with enough practice, I think you can get used to it, just like getting used to a new circuit, really. And in the end, for the best of the best, like Aiden Young, I really don't think it has affected them too much at all. I mean, and again, especially when you're running around other people, got to remember that that's multiple sets of headlights to light the way forward, and that really shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, for these professionals, for Young today, since he's been running with Odo for so long and now running on his own so comfortably, I can't imagine it's been too much of a worry for him this week.
And speaking of darkness here in the Radicals, this slightly predated the official series running here on RaceSpotTV and also on the iRacing Esports Network every single Friday at 2100 GMT, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. They ran a race at the Nordschleife under the lights. You can imagine how terrifying of a prospect that was for those racers then.
Yeah, that's properly dark. But, as I say, it's a circuit that at least people know very well. So that's a positive. Well, they should do. Maybe they don't know it as well as I think. But yeah.
Oh, the bend. That would be tough in the dark.
Well, yeah. It's certainly the case. But and we don't get many of them. Most of the official races happen. I'm not entirely sure why this is, whether there's any real reasoning for it, but most of the races in the Radical Esports Cup that we do on Fridays covered start in the pretty early morning, really, and sun's not long risen, and the temperatures certainly haven't yet risen. And so over the course of the summer season, we just had season 3, temperatures where you expect it to be at least a talking point in one or two of the races just hasn't been a feature at all, really, this season.
Yeah, that is a very good point that you raised there. We'll say whenever the Radical community, the Radical SimRacing community, puts together the schedule, they do have a poll that they send out to the competitors, and any random commentator just so happens to want to give his 2 cents on it all can fill out what sort of stuff they want in terms of tracks, and they can also change how many nighttime and sunset races that we have, and that usually changes from season to season. I'll have to see how things are going to work out for the season 4 schedule. It should be noted, Ryan Odo has rejoined this race, but his main championship rival of Aiden Young is on the last lap with a 4.2 second gap between himself and John Bodefer. He's going to be taking the checkered flag this time, behind for Aiden Young entering this race with the smallest of gaps in the top of that pro championship fight. This is going to be a big sigh of relief as we have another break between now and the next round of the championship at Mosport in about a month's time. Aiden Young going to be enjoying that break with a slightly comfortable gap and a checkered flag in his back pocket.
Yeah, it's been 2 months since we raced in the Radical Sim Racing Americas Championship. It'll be 4 weeks until we next race, as you say. But Aiden Young will be going into it with a big championship lead. After the trials and tribulations of Ryan Odo this afternoon, he is going to see that championship lead go up to over 20 points at the end of today from just 1 point at the start. Aiden Young comes round the final corner to win here at Sebring in the darkness. Checkered flag waves, he flashes the lights. A perfectly executed race, capitalising on the issues for those behind. takes the victory by nearly 4 seconds in the end for Aiden Young. In the AM standings, it will close up as the championship leader Gonzalez loses out on points to Jared Dunkovic and John Benlid, who are going to finish 1 and 2 in this race. Gonzalez started the day 23 and 39 points ahead of the two respectively. Dunkovic really bringing that down now by finishing 4th overall. He'll gain at least 16 points from that 39 disadvantage he had at the start of the day. But more importantly, perhaps, he takes a dominant victory here from Sebring. One of the bigger winning margins you're ever likely to see in the Radical Sim Racing European or America's Championships. About 15 seconds for the AM winner here in Florida.
It's a good thing he knocked down the wall after the checkered flag. His right side of the car is probably going to be quite sad after that moment, but an absolutely dominant drive from Jared Dunkovic. We are still waiting for John Benlid to come across the line here in a couple of moments' time. I think he will at his way down that start-finish straightaway. James Franznick going to round at your podium in that AM category. Overall, it looks, on paper, it looks like everybody was spread out, but that was a rather intriguing race. Strategy playing a huge factor in how things were going to work out there, and I still think it's unfortunate that moment for Ryan Odo earlier on, him losing his connection and dropping out of this race. That's a shame that happened, as we have a photo finish for P11, Robert Neville and Colby Buck fighting right to the end. Neville going to get the edge out there, finishing this race in P11. Ryan Odo going to finish right behind in lucky number P13. Fitting that he finishes this race in 13th, because that man, if he hasn't had bad luck, he's had no luck at all over the past couple of years here in the Radical Americas Championship.
And unfortunately, Flying Lion Racing are going to lose out on a lot of points here today as a result of all of that. Not their best round here at Sebring tonight. It's Aiden Young, though, who wins overall ahead of John Butterfor and Elbaldo Diaz on the overall podium. The AM winners, Jared Dunkovic, who gets John Benlid and James Franznick joining him. Adrian Fernandez is 4th ahead of Jose Gonzalez, losing points there with 8th place. 16 to Dunkovic, 12 to Benlid, at least. Cedric Oyon and Joel Jacklin then round out the top 10. Already over a minute and a half back, by the way. Back to that battle for 11th we were just watching. Colby Buck and Robert Neville. Ronaldo couldn't quite get to them. He ends up 13th and will take his drop week as a result this week. Charles Kresitz finishes 14th, but Gregory Castillo, the only driver, 1 lap down throughout that race. Let's have a chat to Aiden Young then, shall we? The race winner tonight from Sebring. Aiden, welcome in. Good to have you with us. I mean, what were you thinking there when you saw Rhino suddenly disappear from behind you? Because we were surprised, as I guess anybody is when some sort of technical problem happens like that. But what was going through your mind? What were you thinking at that stage?
You know, at first, I thought it was me. Like, because for a second, for me, I saw my relative go completely blank, and I was like, I'm no longer in this session. So I got a little scared for a second. I started panicking, and then my spotter goes, that's Ryan, not you, Aiden. And I'm like, oh. So I feel bad for Ryan because he had the pace. I feel like we could have had a good race together. Would have been a fun battle. Would have been exciting for you guys to watch and commentate on. But yeah, it's just unfortunate, but you know, it's racing. Mechanical failures happen in real life, and then hardware failures can happen in the sim.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say it, and you were able to capitalise on it tonight as well. It does mean as well that you extend a championship lead to over 20 points now with just about 3 rounds to go, because taking your 3rd win in 2025. How are you feeling about sort of holding on to that championship lead now with a bit of space to Odo? Of course, he started the day with just 1 point ahead of him.
Oh no, it feels good. I mean, I definitely feel like I can keep the momentum going, but I'm definitely gonna have to practice quite a lot. Like Sebring, for me, I love Sebring. It's just a naturally good track for me. Like, doesn't really matter the car I drive here. I'm just always pretty decently fast around here. So when I saw Sebring for the race, I was like, oh, we're gonna have some fun with this one. But yeah, throughout the rest of the season, it's just gonna be, you know, head down, keep putting in the work, and then try and maximize the results and the points.
Well, congrats again, Aiden, on the win tonight, and thanks for coming to chat to us after the race as well.
Yep, no problem. See you guys at the next one.
Absolutely. Aidan Young, winner tonight from Sebring. In the darkness, in the pro class, in the AM class, Jared Dunkovic took victory tonight. Jared, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on the AM win. One of the biggest AM wins we're ever likely to see this season in 2025. Just how did you manage to get so much pace out of the car today at Sebring? Is it a circuit you particularly enjoy, or what was going on there?
Well, that's funny you bring that up, because at the beginning of the week I was worried. I was really worried that I was not going to have the pace. But then for some week, just over practicing over the week and stuff, I was able to get faster and faster. And next thing you know, the lap time started coming down. Had a little help from the DCG guys at then comp group. And yeah, we've just been, chipping away at it. And hey, you know what? That's how the pace came down. I'm happy about it.
And if I'm not mistaken, brings you your second victory of 2025. Although in the previous one, you were only one position in front of Jose Gonzalez, who was a lot further down this time, and you'll gain a lot of points as a result. How are you feeling about that sort of situation in the championship now? Obviously, you've come to be in the top 7, but chasing down Gonzalez, it's going to be a smaller gap after tonight. How likely do you think it is? How confident are you can chase him down in the last 3 rounds?
Well, we're going to give it the good old college try there for sure to try to chase him down. The past 2 weeks have been a little bit more favorable to shrinking down that points gap, but predominantly it's been a really tough run. Or he's been on top of it for a lot of it. So, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. But hey, you know what? We're going to keep going to try to knock out some of this points gap, and we're going to try to see if we can become the champion for this year, especially joining in a bit later. But yeah, you're correct. This is the second win, and man, the second win feels just as sweet as the first.
I'm sure, absolutely. Congrats again, Jared, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race tonight as well.
Yeah, appreciate it, and appreciate the broadcast guys. You guys do such a great job, and appreciate the DCG guys and my girlfriend and a bunch of people that help support me. So appreciate it, guys, and we'll catch you in about a month's time.
Absolutely, 4 weeks' time. Jared Dunkovic, winner tonight from the AM class here at Sebring in the darkness. Unfortunately, I haven't been joined by John Bedlett, but we have been joined by James Franznik, who finished in 3rd in the AMs. James, welcome in. Congratulations on finishing 3rd here tonight in the AM class. It was a good battle later on between yourself and Adrian Fernandez and Jose Gonzalez as well, but you were able to just win out of the 3 of you. Tell us about that fight later on between the 3.
Yeah, man, it was crazy because I spun early on, and I haven't looked at the replay yet. I don't know if that was my fault or what happened there. And I was like 50-50, just going to quit at that point. And I was like, I'm already here, and I don't have any damage. So I was just like, I'll put my head down and see where it ends up. I mean, Sebring's my home track. I track my car there. So I'm pretty comfortable with it, but man, it's just taken me forever to get my head around this SR10. It is so twitchy, especially throttle control. I feel like I'm back when I first started sim racing, driving the 911 Cup car. It's everything you do, it just is amplified. But it was a blast. I swear that this was probably my best recovery drive in 3 years that I've been sim racing. But I love this car. It's so much fun to drive.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And as we always say, a great sort of learning car for all other types of machines as well. There's lots of transferable skills for sure. What are your aims for the rest of 2025 Radical Sim Racing, though? We know that you've not been at the first half of the season, almost. You first came to us at round 5 this year. You'll now be in the top 14, of course. Which and maybe knocking on the door of a World Finals place, going straight there maybe with a top 7. Is that an aim for you this season, or are you taking race by race? What's the situation?
I mean, honestly, I haven't even looked at the standings. I'm just trying to learn this car. I primarily drive 911 Cup and F4, and I just started driving the Radical because I was looking at maybe buying a used SR3 for track, and I just kind of wanted to get a feel for it. And then, I mean, really at Interlagos, I just started driving the car, and it's just been messy, just trying to figure out how to drive it, and it's really just learning for me. I'm wherever I end up, whether it's, first or last, I just go out and just have fun driving. So there were some good battles tonight, clean battles between those guys. So yeah, it was tonight's race was a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for coming to chat to us after the race tonight, James, and congrats again on finishing on the podium tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. James Franzik there on the podium tonight in the AM class. Third place for him. And that's just about going to do it from Sebring. Darkness has fallen over Florida and indeed this Sebring International circuit as well. But another good round of the championship. Maybe not the grandstand finish we were hoping for, Ron, but up until that point, we did have some decent battles all throughout the field.
Oh, that we absolutely did. Those AM racers were throwing haymakers at each other as we got towards the first round of pit stops. That was a good race here at Sebring, but as we finally get the season up and rolling for the final 4 rounds, we got that another nearly month-long break before we head off to Motorsports, and we round off the summer as well here at Sebring, a summer season which hasn't seen a whole lot of races in terms of the number of events, but has seen a whole lot of racing. It's been a fantastic summer, a fantastic season up to this point. We're now in the closing stages. The teams and drivers championships in both the pro and the AM category looking to get settled as early as they possibly can, and we get ever closer to those world finals later on this year in November.
Absolutely. The summer break is over and the racing will come thick and fast between now and the end of November. Over the course of the next 3 months, we've got 6 regular season rounds, 3 in the European, 3 in the Americas. We've got the last chance qualifiers and then the World Finals, all to come between now and the end of November. So it's going to be jam-packed into the end of this year after our bit of a summer break. Make sure you join us again for the next round of this championship, 8:30 ET, 21st of September. At Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Very much hope to see you then. For now, though, from us here from Sebring, it's Aidan Young's day once again as he pulls away further in the Radical Sim Racing America's Championship lead. He is now going to be taking that in towards Mosport in 4 weeks' time. Very much hope to see you then. I've been Ian O'Leary alongside Ron Mouse. Remember, Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. And from all of us here from Sebring, it's goodbye for now.